Hey folks, welcome back. You're still with us here on the C Morning Show, and as it is the final day of 2024, with the year winding down now, it is the perfect time for us to hit pause and reflect on our financial journey over the past 12 months. Yikes, might not be a journey we want to look at. Conducting an end-of-year financial review is not just about numbers, but it's also about gaining insight into our progress and setting the stage for perhaps a stronger financial future.
Yes, we can always perfect ourselves, Paul. There's
Always
still
try.
time. We try to.
Amen.
So, nevertheless, let's dive into some practical steps that can help you and us wrap up the year in a strong financial note with Financial Planner Aliyah Natasya. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for being here on the C Morning Show.
Happy to be here.
Yes, and we are now approaching the year 2025. It is a new year. Probably most of us are writing down planning out our New Year's resolution, and mostly
We're always looking ahead, right? Like,
looking ahead. Yes,
next year.
what is coming up next.
Right.
But then what we forget is to reflect on what we have done or spent, especially in this
Yes.
case, financial review the past year. Can you please tell us, or probably enlighten us, why is it important for someone to conduct a personal financial review at the end of each year?
Okay, let's start with seeing our personal finance. Our personal finance is like a life dashboard.
Okay.
Sometimes it's capture our blessings of achieving some successful stories, but somehow it's like a life lessons on how financial pitfalls happen in our life. So having an annual review is like keeping up all the stories from January till December and how we can back stronger every time there's a financial pitfalls.
Okay.
So it's like a lesson learned how you can become a better person each and making any progress. And the beautiful of financial review is like a reminder not to repeat the same financial mistakes again.
Which is probably why we don't like to reflect sometimes.
It is very interesting as well, Paul,
Yeah.
because as we see the social media accounts, there is like a trend coming up of, downloading and then also posting our final expenses, especially on an online platform.
Oh, I've seen
Yes.
this. Yeah, like it's kind of shocking sometimes, right? Like,
Even-
wow, this is how much I spend on
I
food and
know,
snacks alone.
exactly.
Right.
And foods and snacks.
Yeah. So then could you share with us, what are some of the essential components for a thorough and effective personal financial review? Is it just making note of some of the, as you mentioned, financial pitfalls? What are some of the things that we need to note?
Okay, so we can focus on 5 things.
Okay.
First is income analysis. Second is audit our expenses. Third is about saving and investment. 4th is about debt repayment. And
Okay.
5 is our net worth.
Okay.
But usually we feel like we have it all, but actually half of it is our loan and debts. So nobody really put focus on the net worth itself.
Right.
But first thing first, from the income itself, maybe we have more than one income that maybe just come occasionally, like commission or just a side job that comes occasionally. Second, about expenses. We never audit it. Maybe we cannot capture it all, but I think you capture very well the online spending itself. I think it's gonna be part of our daily life, especially in the long term. Everything is going to be digitalized, and digital budget shopping online is gonna increase dramatically, maybe in the long future.
Okay.
And third, about your saving and investment. Does your income have a little side of saving and investing? Or maybe we spend it all. If we don't save and investing, we won't have any buffer for our uncertainty in the future.
Okay.
Fourth is about the debt. Most of us have lots of debt, especially after COVID crisis. So which kind of debt you want to repay it first? Is it with the high interest debt or with the big value numbers of values? And the fifth is about your net worth. Is it progressing? Is it on track? Or are you still in the building up the momentum yet?
Okay, I'll use myself as an example.
Yeah.
I think where I've got it fully covered is loan and debts. I feel like I'm making my monthlies, everything that I'm supposed to pay on time, and what I'm supposed to pay. And in regards to net worth, I think it's somewhat related. For example, if I have a mortgage on a home, if I continue to make timely payments throughout the year, that is increasing my net worth in regards to the asset that I have in a home, correct?
Yes, and maybe sometimes you need to make intentional saving and investments overview, because sometimes we don't know the value of the assets that we already
That's
have.
true.
Maybe we don't do any updates about the right value at this moment, or maybe they lose their value.
That's right, because property, I mean, for most of the time it goes up, but there could be fluctuations in the market as well.
Yes.
And I think in regards to income, I think sometimes when it comes to income and spending, that's when we have selective memory, right? Right? For a lot of times, I don't remember everything that I spent on, and then we just remember some of the things we like to remember.
As you mentioned, spending, Paul, most of the time if we spend or we have allocated a certain budget, we go over budget for the sake of the kids or just for the sake of, right? It happens all the time. Or for the sake of we're on vacation, self-reward.
Yeah.
But how do we actually can assess our spending habits, especially looking back throughout the past year?
That's why we need to evaluate our spending patterns, because not every month we're gonna spend more than the other month as well. So maybe for the next year, we anticipate when is the peak season, when we do some over budget, and when is the best time when we can save more.
But we can go over budget at times.
Sometimes yes,
Okay.
because there may be some that you cannot prevent anything.
As a woman, when can we go over budget? When is
You're
it
looking
is
out for the best
yes,
month.
I know.
Okay, maybe once in a while it's okay to go over budget as long as you have the savings.
Okay.
So you can take some of the amount from your saving, but if you don't have any savings, you will get lots of debt at the later.
So it's okay to have basically a rough estimate, like an estimate as opposed to having actual numbers, because I don't think anyone really has an idea of the exact amount that they have spent throughout the year, let alone some additional incomes that you may not have thought of as well.
So it depends on the individual itself, because some people want to know the exact number precisely.
So you can just go through your bank statements in that case.
Yes, but sometimes that the unintentional spendings might scatter everywhere. And like you said, you won't remember how much you spend, and most of us won't remember how much we can save.
That's true.
Yeah, so some people can have a very disciplined, tight budget, but some of us will have like, I really want to enjoy, but I know the budget is still there.
Okay. My sisters do this, by the way. They have a spreadsheet for their
Everything.
incomes and debits and credits for every month,
Yeah.
whereas me, it's more like a rough number. Like I'm
Right.
kind of guessing. That.
Yeah.
Let's talk about debt management. We talked a little bit about many of us have debts. What role does debt management play in our year-end financial planning?
Debt management is how to keep you on the ground,
Okay.
because you might have a very strict budget in order to have a very disciplined debt repayment. Because without understanding your numbers of debt, you won't have any budget for paying that debt. And the debt itself will take some future of your salary on income. That's why the beauty of your income should have bigger each year to taking care of your debt.
Okay. So when we talk about debt management, we should know exactly how much is going out per month and how much of a duration we need to go on for.
Yes.
We basically just plan for that ahead of time.
Yes, because the beautiful of having a fixed debt repayment, we know how much we are willing to pay.
true.
So, and if we happen to have a financial downfalls and this debt repayment, we can always restructure it.
Okay.
So make it longer,
Yeah.
smaller amount. So it's about how much we proactive with the banks that give us.
And also what sort of debt we should be comfortable with. What sort of debt should we be comfortable with carrying? For example, I mentioned one, a mortgage. Many
Yes.
of us would likely have to carry a mortgage. But is there any other debt that we should feel comfortable with carrying out throughout the year?
Some of our parents nowadays take debt for funding their kids' college.
Okay, yes.
And then third is about the medical bills.
Okay.
Because it's unintentional. Nobody wants to get sick,
Right.
but maybe somehow we need additional money to pay our healthcare bills.
Okay, all right. I never thought of the third one.
Primary needs. That's
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, and this is very interesting as well because Paul mentioned how your sister makes a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
Of
she's an
your
accountant, by the way.
finances.
So that makes sense.
Okay.
But this kind of reminds me because I have a friend, a husband and wife.
Yeah.
They get together like once in a month, and then they sit down and they talk about
Oh.
they plan out their expenses, and they
Yeah.
probably also review their financial
Yeah.
expenses as well. But how often can someone conduct a financial review? Do we have to sit down every month for like our next year's resolution, or is it only enough at the end of the year? And when is the ideal time? Is it like the end of the year or the beginning of the year to make
Quarterly, perhaps? Like companies?
Usually people start to making any financial review when they hit by the crisis.
Yes.
as a reminder?
As a reminder. But it's a good start because they want to improve their financial conditions. But at least do annual financial check review, because the very comprehensive one will give you lots of history lessons and on what you can improve and what have you achieved so far. Where's the money gone and where's money should be saved up. And by doing the annual financial review, it reminds you how little time that you have left to be productive and to save more. It's just being mindful and have more intention with your money. Otherwise, as I said, your money is spending everywhere.
Yeah, and I think that's the scariest part of it all, especially as you hit the latter stages in your life.
Yes.
You start literally doing a countdown of how many years left I can approximately work.
Indeed.
And how long it will take for me to pay off any of my major debts. And,
Yes.
enough money to put away for children and things of that sort. So obviously, you mentioned that one of the reasons people do this is when they hit perhaps a financial crisis, or they suddenly hit a certain debt threshold that they don't want to hit. What are some of the mistakes that people tend to make when they're doing a personal financial review? One of them I can already imagine being kind of forgetting certain things that we have done throughout the year. A year is actually a long time. If you ask me to remember what I spent on in January and February, it's blurry.
Okay. The first common mistake, they tend to overlook with the numbers.
Okay,
If the number is big, it's good. But what if the number is too small?
gotcha.
And then they become a very over-worried and insecurities about everything. And then the third one, it makes them feel guilty for everything that happened. And maybe he feels, why my life is like this? Because the finance, reflection of your net worth and your value itself. Second, maybe they become over optimists. I can do this, I can spend this because tomorrow will be there, tomorrow will be better.
Right.
So having this annual review will help you to keep on the ground, making a very well-informed decisions on how to make your life much better. You still can spend, but how much you spend is gonna define your future. So you need to build a very balancing life between past is about your debt, present is about how you survive and how can you save for the futures. By doing this financial review, you will know what happened in the past is already done, but what can we improve to take planning into actions.
I think the one that hits home for me is the over/underestimating of numbers. I relate it to fitness. Is when people throughout the day, they count their calories, they undercount a lot of calories that they intake, and they overcount the calories that they burn. I think people can relate to that in spending as well, right? It tends to happen sometimes. There you go.
Well, you mentioned about improvements, right?
Yeah.
And then I would like to ask, especially, I mean, of course we make plans, financial plans, we have financial goals, but when we look back, how do we deal with financial setbacks, especially the goals that we did not achieve throughout the year?
I think it's about, because finance is very reflected for our behavior and the way we think, it's about your acceptance. Maybe this is how it is, but how we can learn from this, not to make the same mistakes again. It's really hard to get a setback because I can see some people can get back like in months, but sometimes take years. But maybe you need a very supporting communities because everyone has their own fallback. So find the communities, find supporting partners, because if you're not healthy in your mind, you cannot have a healthy financial actions.
Makes sense.
Because to be honest, nowadays I learned about rewiring our brain. Our brain is the source of how we make any informed decision itself. So how you want to build your brain? Our brain doesn't stop develop. Our brain is still growing until the day we die. So how you want to rewire, how you want to restart yourself again to have a good financial actions. And second, change your circle of interactions. And third, stop scrolling social media.
Yes, that's the most important thing.
Wow, you mentioned a few points that One of the books that I read earlier this year was called The Psychology of Money, and I think it mentioned those 3 points specifically as some of the major points for you to be able to have a different outlook on how we see money and how we see spending and how it affects our life. Number 3 especially. So let's say now we've taken the time, we've taken a day or two to review everything that we've done over the past 364 days, and we've kind of got a rough idea, some good, some bad. How do we use this now to implement what we are going to do in the year or years ahead?
Okay, first, know your budget.
Okay.
Okay, the budget will keep you grounded and be disciplined on what you want to do. Second, what matters in your life. What, who you want your money spent, what it's going, how much you spend for your priority list of priorities in your life.
Okay.
So what really matters. Third, never look money as like a small money, penny, or a big money. Money is still money.
Correct.
Yeah. So never underestimate the power of small amounts that you spend. Because every 100,000 that seems so small, it could add up until millions, and millions into hundreds of millions within 10 years. Because I do some calculations, if you really want to have a home in a suburbs area far, far away, you can only pay like 1 million a month.
Right.
So I think that's it.
Yeah, no, I that was, it reminds me of this thing I keep forgetting about. So I have a mortgage with a certain bank, and out of this mortgage fee that I pay per month, they take 150,000, I think, something like that, out of that payment, and they put it in what they call a savings for the future for children or whatever. And I totally forgot about it, and it's been taken off every month. And I just recently looked at it. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's already a few million there that I had no idea was there.
Yeah.
So again, like it goes to what you're saying. I never noticed the $10 a month coming out of my account.
Yeah.
But over
add up,
time,
yes.
it's this extra couple of hundred, a few $100s that I would never have known about. There you go.
Yeah, maybe just one lesson. That's the power of compounding. You can compounding your asset and value, but you can compounding your spendings.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's always the two sides of when you are using your money. And every decision on your money have a big life consequences.
Every decision you have on money will have
Big life consequences. Short term and a long term.
Short
Because it's compounding.
Yes. Something to remind
Can be
ourselves.
good or bad.
Depends. And so this is the end of the year 2024, and we'll
Yes.
begin the year 2025 tomorrow. So your choice.
On a better road, hopefully.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Wishing you a great year ahead as well, 2025. All right, we're going to set to take another short commercial break. We're at the halfway point of our program, and in case you did join us late, don't worry, we will update you on all the happenings from around the world when we return here on the C Morning Show.